welcome back. Since it's getting to be that time of year again, or not really, we're getting into warmer months, but the weather here in PA is getting just more, I wasn't expecting with global warming, I thought I'd get it warmer, but no, it's about to frost tonight in April, so there's that. So I wanted to continue my series of reading S.E. Slosser, her stories of folk tales, the stuff that no one ever hears about because no one cares about folklore. Or, they care, but they just think it's secret or whatever. Even though it's not, you can just print it out online. This is retold by S.E. Slosser. You can find her just whole spooky book collection online. It's pretty easy. Now, these first two stories are from Canada, and one is from maybe it was written in like the 1970s, 1980s, or early 2000s. I don't know, more modern. And the other one was definitely before Europeans came to the New World. A man and his family were constantly on the move, hunting for beaver. They traveled from lake to lake, stream to stream, never staying any place long enough for it to become a home. The woman sometimes silently wished that they would find a village and settle down somewhere with their little baby, but her husband was restless, and so they kept moving. One evening, after setting up camp on a large lake, the young mother went out to net some beaver, carrying her baby upon her back. When she had a toboggan full of beaver meat, she started back to camp. As she walked through the darkening evening, she heard the thump, thump, thump of mighty footsteps coming from somewhere behind her. She stopped, her heart pounding. She was being followed by something very large. Her hands trembled as she thought of the meat she was dragging behind her. The creature must have smelled the meat and was stalking the smell. Afraid to turn around and alert the beast, she bent over as if to pick something off the snowy path and glanced quickly past her legs. Striding boldly through the snowy landscape was a tall, barrel-shaped, long-haired creature with huge tusks and a very long trunk. It was a mammoth, and it looked hungry. She straightened quickly and hurriedly threw the meat into the snow. Then she ran as fast as she could back to camp, dragging the toboggan behind her. Her little baby cried out fearfully, frightened by all the jostling, but she did not stop to comfort him until she was safe inside their shelter. She told her husband at once about the terrible mammoth that had stalked her and taken the beaver meat. Her husband shook his head and told her she was dreaming. Everyone knew that the mammoth had all died away. Then the lightheartedly accused her of giving the meat away to a handsome sweetheart. She denied it resentfully, knowing that he really believed that she had carelessly overturned the toboggan and had let the meat sink beneath the icy waters of the lake. See some evidence of them using their third eye there, knowing someone's true motives, the words behind their lies. It's like that phrase, I can smell a lie. And of course I know they're not really using their nose. There's no odor, they're just, her brain knows it's a lie. After her husband went to set more beaver nets, she prepared the evening meal. While it was cooking over the fire, she walked all around the camp, making sure that there was an escape route through the willow brush, just in case a hungry man attacked them in the night. The husband and wife lay down to sleep next to the fire after they finished the evening meal. The husband chuckled when he saw that his wife kept her moccasins on and the baby clutched in her arms. Expecting the mammoth to attack us? He asked jovially. She nodded, and he laughed aloud at her. Soon he was asleep, but the woman lay awake for a long time, listening. The wife was awakened from a light doze around midnight by the harsh sounds of the mammoth approaching. "Husband!" she shouted, shaking him. He opened his eyes grumpily and demanded an explanation. She tried to tell him that the hungry mammoth was coming to eat them, but he told her she was having a nightmare and would not listen. The wife begged and pleaded and tried to drag him away with her, but he resisted and finally shouted at her begone if she was afraid. In despair, she clutched her little child to her chest and ran away from the camp. Kind of shows the difference between the yin and yang energy. I feel like the wife, well, she was lucky enough to have the experience of actually seeing a mammoth, but he's stubborn. He's stuck in, views things as just being the way they always are. He thinks, oh, I'll sleep again tonight, just like I do every night. As she fled, she heard the harsh roar of the giant creature and the sudden shout of her husband as he came face to face with the creature. Then there was silence, and the woman knew her husband was dead. Weeping, she fled with her child, seeking a village that she had heard was nearby. Sometime in the early hours of the morning, she heard the thump, thump, thump of the creature's massive feet stomping through the snowfields, following her trail. Occasionally, it made a walking sound like that of a baby crying, wailing sound like that of a baby. The woman kept jogging along, comforting her little baby as best she could. As light dawned, she saw a camp full of people who were living on the shores of an island on the lake. She crossed the icy expanse as quickly as possible and warned the people of the fierce mammoth that had killed her husband. The warriors quickly went out onto the ice and made many holes around the edges of their village, weakening the ice so that the mammoth would fall through and drown. That's not very nice, but I guess there weren't really any other choices back then. As evening approached, people saw the mammoth coming toward them across the ice. When it neared their camp on the island, the creature plunged through the weakened ice. Everyone cheered, thinking that the animal had drowned. Then its large hairy head emerged out of the water, and it shook its long tusks and bellowed in rage. The mammoth, started walking along the bottom of the lake, brushing aside the ice with its huge, large tusks. The people panicked. They screamed and ran in circles, and some of them stood frozen in place, staring as the mammoth emerged from the ice and walked up onto the banks of the island. The wife of the eaten man with her fled with her baby, urging as many of her newfound friends as she could reach to flee with her, but many remained behind, paralyzed with fear. Then a boy emerged from one of the shelters, curious to know what was causing everyone to scream in fear. He wore the bladder of a moose over his head, covering his hair so that he looked bald. He was a strange lad and was shunned by the locals. Only his grandmother knew that he was a mighty shaman with magic trousers and magic arrows that could kill any living beast. Magic trousers, I'd like to see that. When the boy saw the hungry, angry mammoth, he called out to his grandmother to fetch the magic trousers and the magic arrows. Donning his clothing, he shook his head until the bladder burst and his long hair fell down to his waist. Then he took his magic bow and arrows and leapt in front of the frightened people, began peppering the beast with arrows, first from one side and then the other. The mammoth roared and weaved and tried to attack the boy, but the shaman's magic was powerful, and soon the beast lay dead upon the ground. Then those who fled from the mammoth returned to the camp, led by the poor widow and her baby. The people whose lives had been saved by the bladder-headed boy gave a cheer and gathered in excitement around the boy. In gratitude, the people made the shaman their chief and offered him 2 beautiful girls to be his wives, though he accepted only one of them. The widow and her baby were welcomed into the tribe, and a few months later she married a brave warrior who became close friends with the shaman, become chief. And from that day to this, the people have always had chiefs to lead them, and no mammoths have troubled them again. That story was called Attack of the Mammoth, and I thought mammoths were vegetarian, like herbivores, just like elephants today. I didn't know. They don't eat meat, I don't think, so I know that's the whole tale. This one's called an Ontario ghost story. It's an Ontario ghost story. It's more modern. It's called Where's My Liver? Where's My Liver? Okay. Go straight to the store and don't fool around, his mother said sternly as she handed over the money. Your father's boss is coming to dinner tonight, and we're having his favorite meal of liver and onions. It's important that we make a good impression, so get the best liver they've got. I will, Ma, Tommy sulked. His mother had really been after him since he brought home a failing report card. Tommy grabbed his bicycle from the garage and rode down the street. Then saw his friend Chad. Come on, Tommy, Chad called. The gang's playing baseball over at the park, and we need a pitcher. Immediately, all thoughts of his errand fled from Tommy's mind. The boys headed towards the park. Tommy pitched a no-hitter to win the game for his team, but by the time it was over, it was dark. Then Tommy remembered his errand. The liver, he gasped. I've got to get to the store, but all the local groceries were closed. My mom's going to kill me, he gasped. First the bad report card, and now this. He would be grounded for life. Poor Tommy. As he rode home past the cemetery, he got an idea. It was an awful idea, but it would save him from the even more awful fate that awaited him if he came home without a liver. His great uncle had died a few days ago and had been buried in the cemetery. What harm would it do to remove it? His uncle certainly didn't need it anymore. Tommy hurried home as silently as he could and got his father's shovel. He returned to the cemetery and began digging up his great-uncle's grave. Oh, God. It's gross. That night, his mother cooked up the liver and onions. The boss raved about the meal and had such a good time that um, and the boss had such a good time that he didn't leave until quite late. Tommy went to bed that night relieved he had gotten away with it. He fell asleep almost as soon as his head hit the pillow, but woke with a start soon after, sure that he had heard a voice. "Where's my liver?" A ghostly voice rose up from the staircase, deep and guttural. Tommy gasped in fear and flung himself under the covers as a thud of heavy footsteps reached the top of the steps. Thump, thump, thump. The footsteps drew near until they reached Tommy's door. "Who's got my liver?" the horrible voice asked again. Go away, Tommy whispered repeatedly. His whole body trembled in terror as once more the voice asked, "Where's my liver? Who's got my liver?" Sheer terror made him suddenly bolt. Tommy threw back the covers and found the shriveled white face of his great uncle right above him. "We ate your liver," he shouted. "I know you did, Tommy," the rotting corpse of his great uncle said softly, stretching out his bony hands toward the boy's shaking body. Tommy screamed. The next morning, Tommy's parents discovered their son lying dead on top of his bed. His liver had been ripped right out of his body. The autopsy proved that the boy had already died of fright before his liver was removed. Well, that was more scary, well, disturbing, gross, but I guess I'll give some people nightmares. Let me know what you guys think. When was that written? When was baseball real popular in Ontario? I don't know. The next one's from China. It's an Asian American folk's tale. Once there lived a family in ancient China that had two sons. Their elder son, who was to inherit the family fortune, was given a very long and very impressive name, as befitted an elder son. He was called Tiki Tiki Tembo no Saramba Hari Kari Pai Chi Peri Pembo. So just first because the name it takes so long to say. I think that's why we shortened Pablo Picasso from Pablo. Actually had a bunch of 14 other names in between Pablo and Picasso. It's like Pablo Santiago Trinidad something. I don't know. But from now on, I'll just call him Tiki Tiki Tempo. Because that's the name of the story, Tiki Tiki Tempo. The second son, who would have to make his own way in the world, and was therefore not so important, though no less beloved, was named Ping. The two brothers were good friends and loved to play games with one another. One day, as they were playing tag, little Ping slipped on some wet grass and fell into the river. Tiki Tiki Tempo no Rumble, whatever, was alarmed. Neither of the brothers knew how to swim. Tiki Tiki Tempo ran swiftly toward the house, shouting, Mother, Ping has fallen into the river." Alarmed, Mother cried, "Ping has fallen into the river? We must tell your father." So Tiki Tiki Tempo and his mother ran out into the farmyard to look for her father. They found him tending the horse. Father, Ping has fallen into the river," shouted Tiki Tiki Tempo and his mother. Ping has fallen into a river, Father cried in alarm. We must borrow our neighbor's boat and rescue him. Tiki Tempo, and his mother and father ran to the neighbor's house. Neighbor, Ping has fallen into a river. May we borrow your boat? Asked Father. Ping has fallen into a river, exclaimed the neighbor. How terrible! Of course you may borrow my boat. So Father, Mother, and Tiki Tempo paddled out onto the river and rescued poor Ping, who was nearly drowned. A few weeks later, Tiki Tempo, no Rumba, whatever, the really long name, and Ping were fetching water from the well when Tiki Tempo, a really long name, leaned over too far and fell into the well. Ping was alarmed. Neither of the brothers knew how to swim. Ping ran up to the house, shouting, Mother, Mother, Tiki Tempo, whatever, has fallen into the well. Alarmed, Mother cried, Tiki Tempo, whatever, has fallen into a river. We must tell your father. Ping and his mother ran out into the yard to look for the father. They found him in his workshop, carving a table for the kitchen. Father, Tiki Tempo has fallen into the well, shouted Ping and his mother. Tiki Tempo has fallen into the well. Father cried in alarm. We must borrow a ladder from the gardener and rescue him. Ping, his mother, and his father ran to the gardener's house. Tiki Tempo, whatever the name, has fallen into the well, they told the gardener. We need to borrow your ladder. Tiki Tempo has fallen into the well, the gardener exclaimed. How terrible! Of course you may borrow my ladder. So Father took the ladder and climbed down the well to rescue Tiki Tempo, whatever, real long name. But it took so long for everyone to say the poor boy's name that Father arrived too late. Tiki Tempo no Rumbo, Hari Kari Pai, Si Pip Peri Pembo had drowned. Ever since that day, the people of China have given their children very short names. I guess the moral of that story is all the glitter is not gold. Or, I don't know, you might think these people with real long names have a bunch of credibility to them because obviously they were important, but be careful what you wish for. You might just, it's like how everyone wanted a perfect, material like plastic, but it's clogging up the ocean and it's causing lots of diseases and it's really bad for the environment. So, will humanity find a way to not use plastic, at least at a sustainable level, before the creation overtakes its creator? I don't know. Yeah, the moral I get from that story is all the glitter is not gold. Oh, this last one is from the Chinook tribe. It's also Canadian, so the Chinooks, predated Columbus and everything. Another S.C. Slasher book from our spooky series. Spooky Canada is what it's called. Now Wispush, the monster beaver, lived in the beautiful lake Clallam, which was full of fish. Every day the animal people would come to the lake wanting to catch some fish. But Wispush, the giant beaver, drove them away with many threats and great splashing. If they refused to leave, Wispush would kill the animal people by dragging them deep into the lake so that they drowned. Coyote was very upset at Wispush for the way he treated the animal people. Coyote decided that he would kill the monster beaver, and so he went to Lake Cle Elum with his spear tied to his wrist and started to fish. As soon as Wishboosh saw this upstart person invading his territory, the giant beaver attacked. Coyote threw the spear and it pierced the beaver. Immediately, Wishboosh dove to the bottom of the lake, dragging Coyote with him. Well, Coyote and Wishboosh wrestled and tugged and fought each other at the bottom of the lake until the sides gave way and all the water rushed out, pouring out over the mountains and through the canyons until it collected in Katitas Valley and formed another larger lake. Coyote and Wishboosh burst forth into the new lake, shouting and wrestling and fighting each other with renewed vigor until the second lake gave way and the water rushed out, joining with the waters of several rivers to form a massive lake at Topanish. Wishboosh, the monster beaver, would not give up the fight. He bit and clawed at Coyote and tried to drown him in the massive lake. Coyote fought back fiercely, and at last the massive lake gave way. The water roared down into the meeting place of the Columbia, the Yakima, and the Snake, where it dammed up into a lake so huge none has ever seen its like before or since. Coyote and Wishboosh dragged at each other, pulling and tugging, and ripping and biting until the dam gave way and a huge wave of water swept down the Columbia River towards the sea. Coyote and Wishboosh were tumbled over and over again as they were swept down river in the mighty wave of water. Coyote grabbed bushes and rocks and trees, trying to pull himself out of the massive wave. By these efforts was the Columbia Gorge was formed. But Coyote could not pull himself out of the great wave, and so he tumbled after Wishboosh all the way to the bitter waters at the mouth of the river. Wishboosh was furious. He was determined to beat this upstart Coyote who had driven him from his beautiful lake. The giant beaver swept all the salmon before him and ate them in one gulp to increase his strength. Then he swam out to sea, with Coyote in pursuit. The monster beaver threw his great arms round a whale and swallowed it whole. Wow, a beaver swallowing a whale whole? I find that hard to believe. This was, I think freshwater, so what would a whale be doing in freshwater? Maybe back on the time of the Chinook. I don't know. Coyote was frightened by his demonstration of the monster beaver's strength, but he was the most cunning of all the animals, and he came up with a plan. Turning himself into a tree branch, Coyote drifted among the fish until Wishboosh swallowed him. Returning to his natural form, Coyote took a knife and cut the sinews inside the giant beaver. Wishboosh gave a great cry and then perished. Coyote was tired after his long fight with the monster beaver. He called to his friend Muskrat, who helped drag the body of Wishboosh to shore. Coyote and Muskrat cut up the giant beaver and threw pieces up over the land, thus creating the tribes of men. The Nez Perce were created from the head of the giant beaver to make them great in council. The Cayuses were created from the massive arms of Wishbush in order that they might be strong and powerful, the war club and the bow. From Beaver's ribs, Coyote made the Yakimas, and from the belly, the Chinooks, to make the Clicky Tots. Coyote used the beaver's legs so that they would become famous for their skill in running. With the leftover skin and blood, he made the Snake River Indians, who thrived on warm blood. Thus were the tribes created, and Coyote returned up the mighty Columbia River to rest from his efforts. But in his weariness, Coyote did not notice that the coastal tribes had been created without mouths. The god Akani happened along just then and fixed the problem by assembling all the coastal tribes and cutting mouths for them. Some he made too large and some he made crooked. Just as a joke, this is why the mouths of the coastal tribes are not quite perfect. Yes, back then when people were left to their own devices, they didn't have the internet and science and everything. They just made up stories about how they got that way. I think that story was called Wishbush the Beaver. Wishbush the Beaver. Okay, I just wanted to say that if you watched my last video, the reason I didn't make any of those raw vegan brownies was because, didn't make them to share was because, well, now that, like, it's quarantine, the coronavirus, no one, I guess, wants the baked goods. Like, my mom, she used to make a bunch of food, like Walter and pumpkin roll and things I wouldn't eat. And then she wants to give it to, like, I don't know, people work at CVS or whatever, and I mean, obviously you can't do that now. I mean, I used to give out my raw vegan brownies, but don't really go out that much now, and I found that, like, the rest of my family and probably most other people, like, the brownies just don't taste as good to them. Like, I've probably been vegan long enough that my taste buds have altered. Like, things that are natural sweet, or like dates and crab powder and fruit it's sweeter to me. Carrots are really sweet to me. Sweet potatoes. Like, I know this girl, she needs to put more sugar, like maple syrup and caramelized sweet potatoes to make them palatable, but your taste buds do change, and I mean, I go a long way. Like, I'm pretty extreme. I ate wild dandelions, English ivy leaves, yellow watercress, something called cut leaf toothwort, so bitter, pretty bitter, arugula, seaweed's pretty bitter. I don't eat that anymore because the radiation, and so I hope you enjoy your quarantine, guys. Listen to these stories, meditate on it, find out the truth and everything. Bye.